In this Ellerton Associates Technology Training Tip of the Month, we'll be looking at linking Excel data into Access. So the first question is, why would I want to link Excel data into Access? When you're looking at Excel here, I've got a list, and this list is in the format of lists that many people deal with. It's showing individual orders, and my job is to do something useful with this information. Now, built into Excel, I have a lot of tools. I can go up to the Data tab and sort or filter the data. I can go to the Home tab and use Format as Table and turn this into a table. I can go to Insert and put in there a pivot table that will summarize, say, the sales and units in this list and do maybe multiple pivot tables with related charts. That's all within Excel. I can do all that here. But what I can't do is create a true formal report, the likes of which might look like this. I'm going to go over to some PDFs that I have open. So here's an actual report that shows the sales, all of them, grouped by product. So here's the bike sales and then individually listed. And if I go to page 2, the bike group ends and look, it's totaled. So sales and units are totaled for bike. There's the skateboards, units and sales totaled. Snowboards start here and on page 3. And we have a grand total for the report as a whole. And because it is a true report, it's optimized for printing. It can have headers and footers. You can see some footers. We've got labels for the headers, and the very first page had that overall title. Now, this is for all those sales. I'm going to show you one other report here. This one is just for quarter 1. Now, again, if I want a variety of different types of reports that look like this, it's going to be incredibly difficult to do that in Excel because Excel does not have a formal reporting tool that would produce something like this. If you asked me to create this purely in Excel, I'd literally be copying that list and rearranging it to look like that and formatting the cells with those fill colors and stuff. So this is where linking into Access becomes really helpful because Access is a database, therefore it has a full featured reporting tool built in. That's what I use to create these reports. I used Access and then I saved the reports as a PDF for distribution. So to show you the database I created these from, this is kind of the finished product here, a very small one. Here's an Access database called Sales Reports, and I've linked that Excel data in. This is a linked table. It's not a native Access table, it's that Excel file. If I double click it, it's reflecting exactly what that Excel file showed you. I'm going to close that. And then I have those two reports. If I double click all sales, it just opens the report and there's the same one you saw. Now it's opened in Access, but I can go up and access an external data here and go ahead and save it as a PDF for distribution. I'm going to close that one. My sales by date will prompt for date ranges, and this is based on that query. That query is actually the thing that's pulling these dates in and then showing me the data only for those dates. What if I want to just say sales for August? I'll type 8/1/16 as my beginning date, and today is the 19th, 8/19/16 as the ending date. So only a couple of sales of bikes, one on the 2nd and one on the 15th. But there we go. I could save this as a PDF and distribute it. So let me close that. Now, do keep in mind that the point of this particular video is not to teach you how to do these things in Access. By that, I mean create queries, create reports. Those are big topics unto themselves. The main point here is to show you how to link the Excel data in as a table so that you can proceed to do those things. So if you're unfamiliar with Access, hopefully this is a motivational starting point. And if you're already familiar with Access but haven't linked Excel data in, hopefully this lets you know, hey, now I can expand my use of Access to also doing neat things with Excel data, even though the Excel data is going to remain Excel data. Here's the other thing. You might think, well, okay, you link that in. What if you add more sales? What if that Excel list changes or gets appended to over time? I'm going to go over to Excel here and go down to the bottom of my list and add a sale for today. Note the last sale was the 15th. I'm going to put in today, the 19th. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and make this A8034, and we'll go ahead and call it skateboard. We'll do 10 of those. These are just hand-typed prices, not calculated, so I'll put in 4,500, and we'll say it was park, and for the Southwest. Okay, so I've added to that list. I'm just going to go ahead and fill the formatting down using my fill handle. By the way, you can choose fill formatting only, and that's kind of a neat way to replicate formatting. There's your extra bonus tip. But anyway, I got that in there. So the question might be now, I'm going to save this, does it now appear in the linked Access table? And the answer is yes. I'm going to go back to Access, open up Sales, scroll down, There it is immediately because it's linked. So now when I run sales by date and I put in 8-1-16 through 8-19-16, that skateboard order is included. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I'll just close this whole database because I want to show you how I achieved this in the first place. I'm actually going to close the Excel list too, and I'm going to close my PDFs. All right. So I'm going to fire up Access just from scratch here. I've got it pinned to my start menu. I'm going to start a new blank database. And then over here, I'm just going to go ahead and call it Reports. I called that other one Sales Reports, so I'll just call this one Reports. I'm going to put it out on my desktop. Not that that really matters for this. And I'll create it. Now, when you first create an Access database, it gives you one blank table, which I'm simply going to close, and it's basically telling Access, yeah, don't keep that. So I've got a pure empty database. Now, what I'm going to do is go to External Data, and in the Import and Link category, I'm going to choose Excel. Now, I'm going to go ahead and browse out and find that Excel file. And there it is, Sales. Now, this is important. By default, it's going to import the data. If you do an import, it actually will become an Access table. It won't be linked to that Excel file. And that is certainly a handy way if you're actually moving into Access from Excel, like you decided, I'm not going to even keep this data in Excel anymore. I'm going to now start using Access. That's not the point and the reason of this video. What we're talking about is it is an Excel file. It is to remain an Excel file, but we want to use the Access tools on it. So that is a link. So we're going to link to the data source by creating a linked table. I'm going to click OK. Now, this should show you the data properly from that Excel file. You do want to make sure that the first row contains column headings is selected because that data in that list should have had column headers. So I'm good. I'll click Next. And then basically the linked table name, where is it getting that? That was the name of the worksheet in Excel. There was one worksheet in that file and it was named Sales. Honestly, you could go ahead and name this anything you want, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it named Sales and I'm going to finish it. Okay, it says I finished linking. I'll click OK. There it is. So you can tell it's a linked table because of the little arrow with the Excel icon. It's not the Access table icon. And if I double click it, same thing as you saw in the other completed database. So again, it is linked back to the Excel file. Any changes to the Excel file are automatically reflected next time I open it here. I can't do any table editing or data editing here. So if I try to add records or remove records or add or remove columns in Access, it's not going to work. This is an Excel file. I must edit it in Excel. What I can do here, though, is create now Access objects. Let me just really briefly blast out a report for you here. I'm going to go up to Create. I'm going to use the Report Wizard. And it's going to be based on this table. And I'm going to throw all the fields in. I'm going to click Next. I'm going to use Product Grouping just to replicate what I did in that other report. And click Next. I'll sort it within each product by sale date, and I'll put those summaries in there. I had the sums of units and sales. And I'll click Next. I usually leave a stepped outline, and I'm just going to go ahead and name this All Sales. And I will preview the report and finish it. Now, of course, you can tell that I did some extra formatting to that finished copy I showed you a moment ago, but this is pretty close. I'm just going to go ahead and close Print Preview and then close the report. And then I could also create, like you saw in the other one, a query that limits things by dates and base a report on that. But this was just a very brief example. Again, the point was not to teach you how to use Access. It's to really teach you, even if you're strictly using Excel data, why you might want to use Access for some of the things that you need to do, especially creating a formal report. To learn more about our classes, please visit us at www.ellerttraining.com.